Ciao tutti, guys. Welcome back to the Pazza podcast. My name is Travis. We're coming back with an episode of the Calcio Unheralded Legends sub-series, I guess, if you would say. Little sub-series that details players from Serie A of the 2000s, 2010s, who I felt really had an impact on kind of my foundation becoming a Serie A fan, as well as some interesting stories, backgrounds, headlines, characters, really, of Serie A at the time that makes Serie A so much different than a lot of the other leagues around the world. It's always a drama, always a soap opera, it seems like. And I wanted to really highlight and selfishly do a lot of research myself to remember a lot of these players during this era that we kind of forget about. You know, we remember the Pirlos, the Ibrahimoviches, the legends like that, but some of these other players who also were pretty impactful and big during this time, their story deserves to be told too. So, trying to get the stories out and really help people realize why Serie A is the best league ever. Just wanted to throw a quick shout out to my wife making the stickers for me. Still have some left over, so if anybody wants any stickers, comment below and we'll get something figured out so I can send you out some stickers. Also, please like, subscribe, share, whatever on the channel. We're up to 17 subscribers, averaging about 30 plus views. So we're hitting big time, people. Also, you're looking at the kit today. This is my youth kit, Greensboro Soccer Club. I've talked about them before. Same youth club that Gianluca Buzio, the midfielder for Venezia, came out of. You know, he eventually, I think he was about 14 or 15, moved to Sporting Kansas City. But before that, played for Greensboro Soccer Club. Probably, I can't confirm, but I probably refed him. The time adds up, and I was refing a lot of youth soccer for the club as well at the time. So I've probably refed Gianluca Buzio, but yeah, still have this kit. It still fits pretty well. I was trying to, back at my youth playing days, trying to be like Baschirotto, and I was pretty beefy, muscular back then. So it does still fit. And yeah, shout out Greensboro Soccer Club. Really, still a great club. They're now known as the NC Fusion for anybody stateside that knows anything about youth football. So just wanted to throw that out there real quick. But let's dive in. This week we're going to be doing the longtime Atalanta servant captain, really legend for a long time. Kind of has tarnished that legacy. We'll dive into why. But we will be doing Cristiano Doni. If anybody remembers him from his time at Atalanta, he was a wide midfielder, really impactful goal scorer as well. And yeah, let's dive in. He was born April Fool's Day, 1973, April 1st, in Rome. There wasn't really much information that I could find about what neighborhoods in Rome or whatever he was born in or grew up in. Doesn't seem like he stayed in Rome for much of his youth, just based off the fact that his youth careers and the youth squads he played for. One in particular I couldn't find much on. It was Crazy Colombo, which is an insane name. But from what I could maybe gather, they're out of Verona. And then his final youth squad that he played for, eventually helping him gain professional status, senior professional status, was Modena. He'd make his senior debut, though, on loan from Modena for Serie C club Rimini. This club is in the Emilia-Romagna region. And really, one thing of note that I could find that was interesting doing a little research on them was this is the club that really gave Simir Handanovic, longtime Inter and Udinese goalkeeper, his first starts and lots of playing time in Italian top flight football. So, shout out to Rimini. He would also move to Serie C side on loan the next season, Pistoiese, and they are out of Tuscany, the town of Pistoia. I think that's how you pronounce it. They're known as the La Società Arancione, the Orange Society. So really interesting stuff. That's kind of where he got his beginnings from in Serie C. Good performances there led him to make a move July 94 to Bologna, who at the time was a Serie B side. He would stay at the Dallara for for 2 seasons. And in the 95-96 season, they would gain promotion to Serie A. He would be playing alongside players such as Marco Di Marchi, Stefano Torizzi, both defenders, long time. I think Torizzi might have played for Juve for a little bit. And he also played alongside longtime Bologna servant, who was the top scorer of that 95-96 season, Carlo Nero, who only had 7 goals. So Bologna wasn't really a big goal scoring team at the time. 7 goals as your top scorer for a season in Serie B is pretty impressive that they were able to gain promotion to Serie A. But he would not really get to experience Serie A with Bologna. He would be sold that summer leading into the 96-97 season to Brescia, who was in Serie B at the time. Doni would then win his second consecutive promotion to Serie A with Brescia. They would be promoted after that 96-97 season and would make their Serie A. He would make his Serie A debut in the 97-98 season. In the first match day 1, August 31st, 1997, in a 2-1 loss to Inter. And people, if you remember the 97-98 season, Juve ended up winning the title. A lot of controversy around that. It depends on who you ask, I guess. If you ask a Juve fan, they might not say there's much controversy. It was really a season that was marked by the infamous Juve-Inter game where Ronaldo got taken down in the box and no PK was called. Ball came back the other way. Juve ends up getting a PK. It was a huge scandal. If you don't know about it, I'm sure a lot of people do. Interesting to look up that Inter Juve derby in that 97-98 season. But Brescia would finish 15th that season. It was an 18-team league, so they finished one spot above relegation. That team, in addition to Doni, would have Andrea Pirlo, a young Pirlo, and pretty famous striker, Dario Hubner, up top. So pretty fun Brescia side. But in the summer of 98, he would then get sold to Serie B side again, Atalanta. They had just finished 3 points below Brescia in that Serie A season, the 97-98 season. They finished 16th, and they were relegated. So he would go back to Serie B. But this is really where Cristiano Doni became the Doni, the legend of Atalanta, if you will, was this move to Atalanta. Under manager Bartolo Muti, Atalanta would finish 6th place their first season in Serie B, so they wouldn't gain instant promotion to Serie A that next season. But they would finish 2nd place the next season in the 1999-2000 season and gain promotion back to Serie A. This was also Doni's breakout season, 35 appearances. He would score 14 times. Played in that wide left, more advanced position for Atalanta, the position that he kind of made his own throughout the rest of his career. Atalanta would remain in Serie A for the next 3 seasons, and this is really in part to Doni's, I guess, coming into his own role, his resurgence, maybe not resurgence, but his surge into kind of a Serie A, I wouldn't say superstar, but a star in the making, maybe at that point. Um, he would be Atalanta's top scorer in the 01-02 and 02-03 season. He would score 16 goals in that 01-02 and 10 goals in the 02-03 season. These performances did not go unnoticed. Like I said, he was a wide left midfielder, could also play more centrally or advanced attacking. Tall guy, very imposing. For someone with a wide midfield play, he's bagged a lot of goals. He was a goal scorer, which led him eventually to be Atalanta's top goal scorer of all time. We'll touch on that a little bit. But like I said, these appearances and good performances didn't go unnoticed. Eventually, he would get an Italian national team call up in 2001. This was November 7th, 2001, against Japan. And subsequently, he would score on his debut against Japan. I think it was a 1-1 draw. Doni was the only goal for Italy. But yeah, repaying the faith under Trapattoni. And Trapattoni repaid his faith in Doni and called him up to the 2002 World Cup squad. This was a big moment in Doni's career. And if anybody knows anything about that 2002 World Cup team, you can just look at the roster and it's legend after legend after legend after legend. Totti, Del Piero, Nesta, Maldini. Really, the list goes on and on and on. And surprisingly enough, Doni was on this team, and he started the first two matches of the World Cup. Started in the 2-1 victory over, no, 2-0 victory over Ecuador, and then the 2-1 loss to Croatia. Those would be his only two appearances of the World Cup, though. A World Cup that Italy was the favorites, one of the favorites, I guess we could say. Very controversial. Ended up going out in the round of 16 to South Korea. Byron Marino was the referee, if anybody remembers. I'm sure everybody remembers. Very controversial. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. If you have time, look at the O2 World Cup scandal for Italy. But he would only make another appearance or so after that World Cup appearance, and that was really the end of his time with the Azzurri, unfortunately for Doni. Um, and yeah, it was back to Atalanta. Atalanta, though, from the 05 or from then on, they would lose Serie A status. They would get relegated back to Serie B in the 02-03 season. This was due to a relegation playoff, which I really wish they would bring back in Serie A. They would lose 2-1 on aggregate to Regina and be relegated back after finishing 15th place. No, sorry, 16th place. They would get relegated back to Serie B. This led to Atalanta selling Doni, who had been there for 4 seasons at that point and was pretty much the best player for the club, if you will. And they would sell him to Sampdoria, who had just gained promotion to Serie A. The next 2 seasons, though, Doni would fail to kind of reach the heights that he did at Atalanta. He would just make 22 appearances per season for Sampdoria. Scored 5 goals in the first season and just 1 goal in that second season. This would lead him to be moved to Sociedad, which really was not a good move in his career. Sampdoria just finished fifth, not due really to him. Like I said, only 22 appearances, 5 goals, 1 goal that last season, the one they finished fifth. And I guess he was deemed surplus to requirements at Sampdoria, so he would be sent to Mallorca. This was a 2 million euro fee. That was the highest transfer fee I could find for Doni. Not a lot of information on Transfermarkt on Cristiano Doni. Kind of weird. Not really a lot of information on his youth career, like I'd said. Interesting stuff. But he would only stay in Spain for 1 season, 24 appearances. He did score 2 goals, but he would then make his move back to Bergamo for Atalanta. It was an £800,000 move, euro move. So Mallorca took a loss, and Doni took a pay cut, reportedly. He wanted to come back to Atalanta, the club that really was his foundation and breakthrough to Serie A. The next few seasons with Atalanta was still, I guess, they just won promotion to Serie A whenever he moved back during the 06-07 season. And Cristiano Doni, I guess, when you're comfortable a player in a system in a town like Bergamo for Doni, it does something for you. And he hit the ground running after 3 subpar seasons to at Samp, one at Mallorca, hit the ground running in Bergamo. He would make 87 appearances over the next 3 seasons, score 34 goals, 12 assists. That's 46 goal contributions and 87 appearances. Pretty much a goal contribution every other match. And Atalanta, they're not the Atalanta that we know today back then. Mid-table was kind of customary for Atalanta back then. They would finish in 06-07 8th, 9th the next season, and then 11th the next season. In the 08-09 season, the time he spent at Atalanta and the impact that he had on the Bergamo side was repaid to him. And under Luigi Del Neri, who we've mentioned a couple times under the Calcio Unheralded Legends podcast, maybe we'll do him on an episode one day, he was awarded the captaincy in the 08-09 season. So they repaid the faith that he had paid in Atalanta, and that really cemented his status as a legend for Atalanta at this point. During the 2010 season, Doni, from just looking at stats, seemed to have the worst season for Atalanta and maybe even in top flight. showed how valuable he was. His worst season really affected Atalanta. He only scored 2 goals in 30 appearances, and it led to Atalanta getting relegated in the 2009-2010 season, the season that Inter won the treble. They finished 18th, only 35 points, and was sent back to Serie B. This is where the story gets interesting for Doni. Everything seems normal up to this point, and this is when it becomes that is he still an Atalanta legend or not kind of storyline. At the age of 37, Doni would remain instead of retiring. Most players maybe would retire after getting relegated to Serie B this late in their career. Doni decided to stay with Atalanta and try and help them regain top flight promotion. And he would stay one more season, and he would help the club battle back and regain top flight football. He would have 34 appearances in Serie B that season. He would score 12 goals, and they would win Serie B and be promoted to Serie A. They won the Serie B championship, really cementing himself, like I've said just a second ago, as an Atalanta legend, staying with the club, the twilight of his career, 37 years old, and helping them win the Serie B and get back to Serie A. But then it all came crashing down for Doni. Um, it was June of 2011. Doni was arrested at his house. Reports were that he answered the door for authorities, but then tried to escape out of his garage. Um, and this was due to reports of match fixing. Really interesting stuff at this time. This would be called let's see, I have it written down some here. It was called the Calcio Scommesse of 2011 scandal, which pretty much means soccer bet scandal, roughly translating. It was a big scandal that was brought upon, interesting enough. Cremonese, they had sold a goalkeeper. His name was Marco Paolini. I think that's what his name. I can't tell if it's Padini or Paolini. Terrible handwriting. They sold him to Benevento. And then seemingly he ratted himself out, saying that he had poisoned. Couldn't find out what kind of poison or what it was, but he had tainted, I guess, water bottles of former teammates at Cremonese to try and throw a match that he was trying to fix. And then the floodgates opened, and players were named. Lots of big name players in the Serie B at the time. I guess they may not big name players, but there was a lot of names listed after this, and one was Cristiano Doni. Allegedly, he had been fixing matches during that whole Serie B season and was betting on the matches as well. And he had to answer for it. So authorities came. He tried running. He was arrested. Reportedly, he denied any um, knowings or doings of match fixing. Apparently, in December of that year, he did admit to authorities that he did match fix. But he said he did this because he only wanted the best for Atalanta. I think quote here that I have was that let's see. He said yes to the fixes because Atalanta benefited. Um, yeah, kind of crazy. He had been doing this the whole season, Serie B season. He wasn't the only big name. Some names I saw during this: Antonio Conte, who was the coach of Siena at the time. His name was implicated in these investigations or whatnot. His Doni's teammate Thomas Manfredini, Giuseppe Signori, Christian Stellini, who I'm guessing was Conte's assistant. He's longtime Conte assistant. But yeah, one thing also, Doni got charged with trying to tamper and get rid of evidence as well. This was apparently there was an iPhone of, at that time, Ravenna goalkeeper Nicola Santoni, who had proof and evidence that Doni and Santoni were talking back and forth to try and fix that match. Apparently, Doni was trying to destroy evidence and destroy the phone. But it was a really big hit. And as noble as it sounds, Doni saying he's doing this just to try and benefit Atalanta. match fixing, as we know, and it's just a big wrong thing. It's destroyed Italian football for a while, especially from 90s, 2000s. This is 2011. Haven't had as much recently, but it's a problem in Italian football. And Doni was made an example. He ended up getting a 3.5 match or 3.5 year ban from any footballing activities, which was one of the more extreme ones that came about from this investigation. And subsequently, his football career ended at this point. He was able to come back if he wanted to, February 2017. He would have been 44 years of age, not realistic, in any capacity to come back and try and play at that point. And the career of becoming an Atalanta legend was tarnished at this point. From what it looked like and what I could tell from research is that Atalanta fans don't really still view him as a legend. They view him as a cheat and a tarnished legacy. Some fans still do say that Doni is an Atalanta legend. Me, as an outsider, an Inter fan, during this time, I very much remember Doni, and I still think he probably should be considered an Atalanta legend. He's their top scorer, 112 goals for the club. The next closest is Duvan Zapata with 30 goals less, only 82. You you can't erase it with that, I guess, the becoming a criminal and the criminal charges of match fixing. But it's tough with how proud Italian clubs are and teams. It's tough to see that a lot of people don't view Doni as a legend, despite everything that he did for the club and helping them to their status that we know kind of today, I guess. He kind of was that first superstar before Ilicic, before anybody. Now they have Lukman, Retege. The foundations were set by Doni at this time. So kind of sad that he's regarded in that kind of way by Atalanta now. An important quote that I found too after the fact is that he began, quote, "I would have never listened to anyone who offered me money to make my team lose. I made a mistake and can't even look myself in the mirror because it makes me think of all the pain I caused my family and fans." So based off this quote and the other quote, everything he did was for the betterment of Atalanta. Does that make it any better? It definitely doesn't. But for Atalanta fans, maybe that should kind of stick in their hearts to accept Doni back again. And it's a shame. That's really the end of his story. Couldn't find much after that. He's not coaching or anything like that. On Instagram, his latest post that I saw was him playing pickleball with Papu Gomez, another Atalanta legend. So seemingly kind of still trying to live his life. Papu, I guess, recognizes the importance of Doni if he's still hanging out with them. And yeah, that's kind of where the Cristiano Doni story ends. For me, his legacy, who he's known for that damn number 72 shirt. Serie A is known for having crazy shirt numbers, and Doni, for the majority of his career, wore number 72. Towards the end, he wore number 27. Remember him as a big midfielder. He's labeled as a wide left midfielder. He kind of played, I would say, maybe modern day, wouldn't want to say Metzela, but he would also come centrally. He wasn't afraid to strike a ball, a lot of volley goals that he had. Just an all around interesting player that was tough for defenses to prepare for. That's why he scored so many goals from the position that he played. Skillful, talented, but a goal scorer. Yeah, and that's where Doni would pretty much end his career and be known for. For me, Atalanta legend. For the Bergamo people, probably maybe not, but a career that was defined by so many good seasons, goal scoring seasons, really tampered and tarnished by the controversy and match fixing in 2011 Serie B. That's going to do it for this Cristiano Doni story. Appreciate all the support, guys. Next week, we'll come back with another one. Really struggling to find some more interesting stories, so maybe we'll just do a profile of a normal person. Thinking maybe Giuseppe Mascara, the longtime Catania winger. If you guys have any recommendations, please give me some in the comments. I appreciate all the support. And as always, Forza Inter.